Welcome, everybody. This is Wilson coming at you with the movement. I'm here, like always, with Cam, JP,
hey guys,
O,
what's up?
And a special guest from Chattanooga, Tennessee, Kelly Bomar.
Kelly Bomax.
Howdy, howdy.
How's it going?
Howdy ho, everybody.
It's good, fellas. I hadn't seen y'all in a month of Sundays. Glad to see y'all and be on here with you.
Absolutely.
That's so southern. I love it.
I love it.
Month of Sundays.
Month of Sundays. It's always a Sunday. That's good stuff.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No, man, I've been listening to y'all blowing it up on the podcast and sharing it with friends too. I got several friends listen to it, and just honored and glad y'all asked me to come on. So hopefully I can contribute a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, we want to talk about today is in your realm in politics. We definitely want to let the people know that what we're listening is how we can safeguard our liberties and freedoms and our choices just to be American. And it's at jeopardy, in my opinion, and fact that this election is going to be the biggest thing in U.S. history probably. If it goes the wrong way, that's America as we know it. It's gone. So with your background, I'd love to just kind of give you the floor for a little bit, kind of give the audience what your background is, what you did professionally up to the point where you got into politics, kind of your politic or running as what your current position is, and then also how the good and the bad and the ugly of that. Whatever you feel like you are okay to share.
Yeah, I know you said Chattanooga, Tennessee. Technically nobody knows where Ringgold is. Y'all do, but just outside of Chattanooga in Georgia. Grew up here, lived here, just turned 40, so I've been here for 4 decades now.
Wait, did I miss your birthday?
I don't know. Did you tell me? You might have told me happy birthday. I don't remember. But
Oh
yeah,
my
I just turned
goodness.
big 4.
Terrible friend. We've been friends for 15 years. Lord have mercy. That's awful. Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy
Welcome
birthday.
to the club.
Big 40.
Welcome to the
That's
club.
awesome, man.
No wonder you look so damn good. Me and you, best looking guys in the room.
Debatable.
Debatable. Short debate, but debatable.
I'm going to call a recount.
Right?
Pun intended.
So I've been, I've followed politics really since high school, really before high school, but, I went to college, got a music education degree, and came out and decided I didn't want to teach for a while. Did restaurant management for about 4 or 5 years. It was right at the tail end of that actually is when I met Cam, and then shortly after met Wilson, and then shortly after that met you other two fellers, and just always been interested in politics and like you said, Chris, about preserving our freedoms and those type of things and where we're headed, and you're right, man. We've it seems like every year, every cycle, it seems like we keep pulling away, from kind of what we were founded to do. And currently, I decided a couple years ago, running for city council here in Ringgold. Not a huge city, but I wanted to start somewhere. Definitely have aspirations to get to a higher level, but start in city politics. And it's crazy, man. Even at the city level, it's crazy how people cling to what they believe, whether it serves the people that they're elected to serve or not. They just anyway, we'll get into all that, but yeah, I mean that's always kind of been my bread and butter is politics and studying where we came from, where we're going. I love studying kind of where we've come from, where we're going, political movements that kind of blossomed and then failed, and why they failed, and why we are where we are. And I think that you're right, Wilson, when you said this is a very important election. The country's in turmoil right now, and a lot of that has been the last 8, 12, 16 years has been brewing, and it's finally has come to a point to where this November is going to be a big deal. It's going to be a big election, and it is very important that people not only vote but get educated and then vote. That's the thing, man, is to know what you're voting for and why you're voting for it. Because so often what we do, it's politically we vote for things and see things, but man, you don't see it come to fruition for 8, 10, 12, 16 years. And so a lot of times people that don't understand the big picture, they'll vote for the gimme, gimme, gimme kind of mindset, and it just wreaks havoc, man. So yeah, I'm deep in the political stuff. Yes, I'm on city council in Ringgold, but rubbing shoulders and trying to network with guys and gals that are, at the state level, the county level, state level, and even our U.S. reps and senators and stuff. So I'll quit rambling, but that's a little bit about me. I live here in Ringgold with my wife and 3 kids, 3.5-year-old, 15-month-old, and a 2-week-old. So, God bless my wife.
Yeah.
She has the hardest job, man. She's at home wrangling them all day. So kudos to her for what she does. So.
Yeah, then you get playtime.
That's right.
Wow.
Well, I knew you would be a good dad anyway, even though you probably thought otherwise. But I would say that's a never
I think we
a
all
dull
thought
moment.
otherwise. For all of us,
Right?
we know ourselves well, so we wonder.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Sure.
I think you avoided it way too much.
I know.
I was like, man, he's gonna be a great dad. He like acts like kids are the plague and stuff like that, and I knew better.
And then you got 3
You know,
in
it's
like a
kinda like-
minute and a half.
It's kind of like how people that like accuse people of stuff because generally they're the ones that are guilty of it.
Right.
Yeah. You know what I'm
Wait,
saying?
where do you hear that?
We're not going to I digress. Maybe we'll get into it. I don't know.
By the way, did you
Stay
guys see the
tuned.
conventions the last couple of weeks?
Oh,
Oh,
my
no.
goodness. That's what we're going to
that
get
might have been
into.
where I heard that.
Oh, no,
Jeez.
I didn't even put those together.
I think that's a natural tendency of. Go ahead, Chris.
There's not any really like flow to this. I really just want to kind of talk about just where we're headed as America in general, and how we can kind of change course. Those who are just like sitting on the back seat or sitting in the back, not participating, not really getting involved. You are in America. It's your responsibility to vote. Your responsibility, like what Mr. Kelly Bomar was talking about, is get educated. And I mean, I talked to somebody just today, just in passing with the chaotic day that we had. If they checked out, the DNC convention, or if they checked out the RNC, and they both are like, both answers no. I'm like, so how do you know who you're going to vote for? Oh, I'm just not going to vote for Trump. Why? I don't like him. He lies. But who says that? And
No,
it's
the
based
problem
off the
is he
news channel.
tells the hurtful truth.
Exactly.
So here,
Go ahead.
do you
Go
care
ahead.
if I
don't care.
ask
Go
a
ahead.
question? So,
I was
and
so
I'm,
ready to interject, and I was just waiting to put my hand up.
but you didn't.
I
But
waited.
you didn't.
I
But you
hesitated.
didn't.
But
You hesitated. That was the problem.
Hey,
So,
that's how I felt last
Kelly, so while we've got you sitting here, I'm sure that you've probably read the book In the Arena.
Yes.
Really good book, and he talks about freedoms and stuff like that. And everybody knows that freedom isn't free. There's no such thing as free lunch, stuff like that. There's certain responsibilities that come with it. And I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but as you see it from a politician's standpoint, right?
Right.
What do you believe that the general citizen of this country, like just every single person in this country, what are their responsibilities as a citizen in this country?
Well, I'll tell you, I'll approach it from this way, JP. As far as when it comes to elections and what they should expect out of people they vote into office. When the country was founded, right? Voting percentages were up in like the 90 percentiles of people that came out to vote. A lot of that had to do with you had to be a white male landowner to vote, and the male part of it was their logic was each household should have one vote. It really didn't necessarily start out as we hate women. I hate the whole. I just listened to a podcast the other day by Jordan Peterson, and this whole a lot of people on the far left have us believe or want us to believe that there's that it's some patriarchal. Yeah, it's a male-driven. I can't say that word, but yeah, and the thing to me is when I look at that, people say that it's been a male-driven, blah blah blah. For the vast majority, even now, it's a more heavy percentage of men that are in positions of leadership. But it's not like, and y'all know, I know all 4 of you, I know your wives, and they're not. It's not like they just sit at home and don't contribute to society. So to me, it's a bit of a slap in the face to think that women have had no say so, for 200 years in this country. But things change, and rightfully so. In the 20s, we just celebrated 100th anniversary of the ratification of the amendment for women having the right to vote. And people of color, black folks could vote too. Which by the way, in certain parts of the country, in a lot of parts of the country, black people could vote during colonial times, if they were, unless they were a slave, obviously. But it wasn't like black people couldn't vote. If you were a black man that owned property, you could vote.
It was more the ownership piece.
Yeah.
It's
the whole thing, and I know y'all are very familiar with this. It's the whole thing of they thought, unless you're educated and have some skin in the game, they didn't really want you voting. Right. And I'm not saying we should go back to that. But it does put some responsibility. I think you should
qualify to a certain extent to vote. There's a certain.
I think just having a heartbeat might be a little too inclusive.
That's just me.
But like you said, JP, it puts the onus on us of, if I'm going to go vote, which every red-blooded American, so to speak, I think should, then it's on you to figure out what am I voting for and why am I voting for it. And unfortunately, like you said, Wilson, since really it started in the Nixon-Kennedy election when TV came around. And if you go back to why people vote for people, going back to that election, it's because in the first TV debate ever of a presidential election, here's Kennedy, a younger guy, his makeup was done right, against Nixon, who, if you look at it, looks like an old white man that's about to die. And people voted for Kennedy because he looked better. He looked the part. And I really think ever since then, it's almost been a cult of personality. I know, and I'll play it both ways. I know, when Barack Obama ran the first time, a large swath of people voted for him because he was the first black man that was on a ticket.
Yep.
It wasn't because of his policies.
Well, and people even openly admitted that too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not like I can't believe you just said that kind of thing. I mean, and I'm not necessarily disagreeing that it wasn't time for America to have a black president. Right. I think we needed to get past that quote unquote barrier. But I'm not one for getting past the barrier just for getting past the barrier. I think it still needs to be a qualified. I am totally against this whole. Well, if you got two candidates for a position and one of them's white and one of them's black, and I haven't hired enough black people, then I got to hire one. No, I think you need to hire the guy that's qualified.
Oh, we could have done it right and just done Candace Owens.
Exactly right.
Absolutely.
Then you got the woman and the black lady.
There you go.
Knock them both out.
One of my favorites.
She's actually black,
Condoleezza
not
Rice.
Indian.
Yeah.
Even better than Candace Owens, I think. But on the flip side of the coin.
Oh yeah, I would agree with that.
I mean, if anybody that's on the Bowles selection committee,
That's true. But like I said, on the flip side of that, 4 years ago, a lot of people voted for Trump because of who he was. They had no idea why they're voting for him.
Yeah, right.
They're just like, I like that guy. He said you're fired. So, So it's just a matter of what's our responsibility. It's when it comes to elections, it really is a matter of getting educated and voting on what the person is for, what they're about, and what they stand for. And unfortunately, I think the past 20, 30 years, man, we've really gotten away from that, and it turns into a ginormous popularity contest like high school homecoming king.
Right. Well, and we've gotten so divided in the parties. I remember I heard it said recently, and I can't remember where I heard it or I would give credit, but somebody said, it used to be, and I remember this when I was younger, it used to be that Democrats and Republicans had very similar goals. They just had a different route of getting there, right? So they had a similar vision for the country. They just had a different formula for reaching that goal. Now it's like, I hate one or the other. I have to. I'm supposed to hate one.
Well, what bothers me more than anything about what you just said right there is not only just the election side of things, but the fact that during the term that they're serving, the other side is so divided they're willing to sabotage the freaking country to make that individual look bad while they're serving.
Instead of, hey,
it's like
this
drilling
is who the
holes in a
selected.
boat you're sitting in, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, it doesn't make any freaking sense to me.
But we got to get back to a time where we go, you know what, our core fundamental principles or whatever might be or our foundation might be a little bit different. You know, you may believe this particular way on this topic, this particular way on this topic, but we've got to love our country, and we've got to love the citizens of our country. And what can we do to make it better? Like, how can we serve them? Like, we've got to get back to that position where I'm okay with somebody being a Democrat in office. I mean, I'll admit I have no issue with it. Like, I don't understand the whole thing about not telling people who you vote for. It's never made sense to me. But because where I grew up is like, oh, you don't talk about who you vote for. Why the fuck wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But anyways, so I also tell them about Jesus too. I know that's a little controversial.
Hey, can you edit that out? Oh. Can we edit that? Nah.
And you believe in whoever didn't create the world, whatever, it doesn't matter. But if I vote Republican typically, like very strong majority of the time, I'm voting
you're
Republican.
racist.
Yeah, mainly because I'm racist. And I think, but if somebody runs as a Democrat and they have views that I think would be helpful in the role that they would play. Or even if I didn't vote for them and they got elected and they had some things that, like, you know what? We should have an open mind. Listen to what they're saying. Like, let's get behind them. Let's help them. Hell, even with Obama, and I was honestly totally against that whole deal. But even while he was in office, like, there had to, at least at the beginning. Now, after the first 4, it was kind of hard to get behind the second 4. But at the beginning, it was like, okay, well, let's see. Maybe there's some viewpoints that we're not seeing. Let's give it a chance, and let's not burn down the country because we don't like the guy, So we've got to get back to a point to where we can actually be civil and go, all right, we're not exactly the same, but that's what's great about America. But we can unify.
I wish we could get behind an independent candidate. Like for
Oh,
once,
my gosh,
instead
yeah.
of being a two-party system, get behind an independent candidate where we can get behind somebody that's like, hey, look, there's social aspects of being a libertarian or whatever you want to call it that I agree with. There's certain aspects of business and law that I believe need to be conservative. Kind of thing, because they work.
Bomar, would you, and I could be off base here, what I think, but where do you say, I feel like a lot of times some of the things I've seen from you and heard from you is more on the libertarian.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty strong in the libertarian camp.
Okay.
And a lot of people, I've been accused. It's kind of funny because I'm libertarian pretty much. When I'm talking to people, or occasionally, I try not to post too much national political stuff on Facebook. Just to be honest with you, because I just don't want to.
Why? It's really effective.
I mean, but I've been, I've had some of my more liberal friends, say that I don't understand what libertarian means, and I was like, I don't think you understand what it means. But I'll give you an example. Actually, I'll give you 2 examples. One, talking about a third-party candidate. The libertarian candidate for president this time is the lady, Jo Jorgensen, I think is how you pronounce her last name. And if you compare all 3 candidates, what they stand for, and what they would like to see, their vision of America, anybody with a brain cell would vote for her. She's a doctorate in some sort of engineering, something or other. I saw a meme the other day. Said, there's one candidate running for president that's never been accused of sexual harassment. And it's neither of the 2 guys.
Now, there is a difference between being accused and actually being guilty.
Right. And
Yeah, you didn't get caught if you were accused.
but so the thing is with the 2-party system, I've been reading a book recently. Actually, I think it's called 7 Events That Made America America, something like that. I'm not all the way through it yet, but the first chapter, it talks about the history of the big 2-party system. And I'm thinking, okay, probably the 40s, 50s, 60s, maybe after World War II. No, late 1700s. And it's the early 1800s, and the guy that did it, this will surprise you, he was a Democrat. Martin Van Buren, he was from, this will also surprise you, he was from New York. And his whole thing, he became Andrew Jackson's vice president, right? The first, which, hey, here's a side note. The emblem for the Democrats is a jackass, is a donkey.
Yeah.
It got that name because of Andrew Jackson, because he was such a jackass, and he was the first person to run under the Democratic Party.
They hung
They
their
called
hat
they called him a jackass, and that their mascot stuck. And
I didn't know that.
Awesome.
now and his VP was Martin Van Buren, and Martin Van Buren was from New York. And what he decided to do, he saw in his mind that that slavery and the issue of slavery would divide the country. So he started thinking if he could kind of basically what he did is he gave out political favors to win elections at the local level that would then win them at the state level. Because at that time, used to, people didn't vote for president. Your state representatives and Senate voted for the president, right? And so he would, like, the big job he would give out as postmaster. We don't think about that being a big deal now, because it changed, I think, in the late 1800s. But he would give out all these jobs and favors. Well, what happens? Government slowly and slowly grows and grows and grows because he's giving out all these favors. So he started this system to try. Basically, what he wanted to do was keep slavery off the table, because he didn't want the pro-slavery or the anti-slavery camps to cause issue. Well, what happened was, because he created this monster, 20 years, 30 years later, we're in a civil war fighting over it. Because, a lot of times we do things and have unintended consequences, right, decades later. So, it goes all the way back to the early 1800s. And, here you have, Abraham Lincoln, the first, Republican Party really candidate that ran. It's so strong at that point. You had Teddy Roosevelt won 2 terms as a Republican. Then I can't remember who won after him, but he was so pissed off at what he did, he ran again as the Bull Moose Party, which we would really call progressives today, which is weird. And he lost as a third-party candidate. So, so the party system goes a long way. Now, I'll say this too, JP. You're talking about, I wish we could find a quality candidate. I'll give you a real-life example. In my county, Catoosa County, a dear friend of mine, she's been a coroner for 20 years in Catoosa County, and she ran for a seat on the Board of Commissioners for the county. And she won the primary against the incumbent, had to have a runoff, and won her seat. Well, 2 days later on Facebook, she comes out, doesn't really endorse, but there's a guy running for the county chairman, not against her, but for the chairman, on the Democratic ticket. He's been a friend of hers for 40 years. She says, I've known him for 40 years. He's a stand-up guy. He's ethical, blah, blah, blah. I support him, wish him all the best, blah, blah, blah. Because she feels like the Republican running is a crooked guy, blah, blah, blah. And I could spend a whole hour talking about that. But anyway, it wasn't like 2 days later, the Catoosa Republican Party came out and said she violated her oath of the GOP, and we're going to put a write-in candidate against her in the big election in November. And I'm thinking, what in the world? It really makes the Republican Party in Catoosa County look like a bunch of jackasses that are butthurt, because here's this lady that won and said, that guy's a friend of mine. He's a stand-up guy, and I wish him all the best. And the thing is, he is a pretty moderate Democrat. You got to be to do anything in Georgia, right? At least in our part of the state. So it goes exactly what you're saying. It's not about the best candidate anymore. It's about what is the letter beside your name, right? And I'm going to vote for that no matter what.
Even Trump, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Bomar, I think he wanted to run independent. I didn't think he wanted to align with the party, but then he realized he needed the party in order to get elected.
He was smart enough to know that he had to join the Republican Party, and he agreed with them more than he agreed with the Democrats.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, he definitely was going to run independent. But
maybe that's why they're so pissed, is because they wish he'd have picked them.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
hell, if I was them, I would.
I think a lot of the reason that they're pissed is because, honestly, he came in there and doesn't give a shit, and he's exposing all the buddy system that goes on inside politics and all the dirty shit that's going on. I think the next 4 years are going to be really, really, really ugly.
Well, the first couple of years, the Republicans didn't like him very much either. A lot of them still don't.
Yeah.
But there at the beginning, there was a lot of Republicans that were pissed that he was their candidate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever. Truth hurts.
I think a lot of that, honestly, is I've been thinking about this a lot, the last couple of weeks. I think a lot of the reason that both sides, but especially even the Republicans that don't like him, they may agree with what he does most of the time, but they can't control him.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that they hate. He didn't pay his dues. He didn't come up through the system. He wasn't a senator for 4 decades like Joe Biden.
Biden has paid his dues in some way, I guess, just with the amount of breaths he's taken in office.
He's been a senator for almost 40 years. He was a vice president for 8 years. But then he wants to say Donald Trump in 3 years has destroyed America. Bro, you were in for 5 decades.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's the kind of silly shit though that the general, and that's kind of what I was getting at with my question. How do we educate the general public? Because here, this goes back to everything, right? So our tax money goes into these bills, right? These bills that are passed to do things and shit. That's our tax money. But the problem is everything's become so convoluted within politics and stuff like that that your average U.S. citizen can't follow. Like they don't, and they're not going to. Like they're just like, you know what, screw it, whatever. They passed a bill, but the fact of the matter is, long term, that stuff affects you big time.
Right.
And they take shit away little by little by little by little, and then you turn around 50 years later and you go, how the hell did we get to where we're at? Well, we got to where we're at because they kept doing little shit. They had all these legal jargons and all this stuff. They had a 50-page bill because somebody needed a boat, somebody else wanted their thing done, and stuff like that. So how do we? I mean, I guess that's something that I've always struggled with, right? Like, I think that anything that's done from a political standpoint with taxpayer money, with the exception of military, I think that needs to be secret. Doesn't need to be dumbed down to the general public and tell you, hey, we're building a top secret plane. This is the dimensions. This is where your money's going. But anything outside of that should be very clear to the public, and it should be presented very, very, very clearly, and it's the public's responsibility to understand it. Now, if you give somebody, like if I walk into a courtroom and they're talking about all these laws and stuff like that I don't know anything about, then it's going to take me some time. I mean, people go to law school at Harvard for years and have to pass this really difficult bar exam to do law, you know. But the fact of the matter is, just a general citizen of the country should be able to understand that kind of stuff. But we have it so confusing now that the general public doesn't have a freaking clue if they're coming or going. They don't know. They're just kind of like, I like him, like you said before. It's a popularity contest. It's social media now.
Yep. Yeah, it's even worse now.
How do we make politics understandable to the general public?
So to answer your question, JP, I found that same Jordan Peterson podcast I referenced earlier. He talks about, it was back in late 2018, he talks about an article that references a study in the Atlantic magazine, which is traditionally a slightly left-leaning publication. So I was kind of surprised at what he was saying, but the title of it is "Americans Strongly Dislike PC Culture." I'm like, well, no shit. But the statistics, especially the demographic statistics that they came in this study, really surprised even me. But just to get to your point, so they found that 2/3 of Americans, so 65%, somewhere in that neighborhood, constitute what they call an exhausted majority. And they share, this is quoted now, they share a sense of fatigue with our polarized national conversation, a willingness to be flexible in their political viewpoints, and a lack of voice in the national conversation. And a full 80% believe that political correctness is a problem of our country. Now, here's the part that will surprise you four gentlemen. Do you want to take a guess at the most racially and demographically homogenous group is among the most progressively liberal group? And here's who they were. Progressive activists are more likely to be rich, highly educated, and white. So the people that are fighting for this social justice, and I'm all for social justice, but not the crap they call it, but they're nearly twice as likely to be an average salary of more than $100,000 a year, more than 3 times likely than the average to have a postgraduate degree. And for you, Wilson, that means master's degree or above. And
cool.
just kidding.
I'm lost, man.
I love it.
Appreciate that.
And here it is. So while 12% of the overall sample for this study was African American, only 3% of the most progressive activists were African American. So what it boils down to is exactly the reason this divisiveness. It's over, man. Really, and I'm not saying this because I think it was his fault, because I love Ronald Reagan, but it was during that kind of late 80s, early 90s. And it wasn't just in politics, it's in our culture. It started this tribalism. And it's everybody. What we see with social media and the news today on the right and the left is so far from the vast majority of what Americans believe. And I think we've gotten to the point where everybody has common sense and says, okay, I believe this, but I also understand there's people that don't. So we can compromise. We can find some middle ground. And I think that the vast majority of American people are so pissed off, and they're just like, I'm just going to vote for whoever because it doesn't matter.
Well, no, and that's such a great point, and I'm glad you brought that up, because the truth of the matter is nothing is as bad as it sounds when you turn on the TV. Nothing's as good as it sounds when you turn on the TV. I mean, the media really, truly has just effed up the country, for lack of a better way of saying it. Even when it comes to, like, okay, for instance, whatever the date is today, there's a hurricane coming in, or maybe a couple of them coming into the Gulf, and I literally am having conversations with people in what I do for my full-time job that are not wanting to work today because they have been scared so badly by the weather reporters. And ultimately it was a 15% chance of rain in Chattanooga today. It was a little cloudy and then some sunshine, never rained a drop. But they had been watching so much of what sells advertisements that they've been hammering this hurricane. It's going to be awful. It's going to be awful. It's going to be awful. That they literally didn't want to work today because they were afraid that they would be in bad weather. Instead of actually looking at the fact that there wasn't going to be any bad weather today, it's coming this weekend.
They go outside.
Dude, it's ridiculous though. But like, it's the same mindset of, it's the end of times. If you watch now, trust me, I think there's some things out there that are we're getting in that direction. But when, like what Kelly just said, is the majority of people, if you just go live your life and you never turn on your television and you never get sucked into the political stuff on social media, if you just go live your life, really things aren't that bad.
Nope.
I mean, they really aren't. Like, you don't see most of what you would see.
But so everything's driven by data analysis, right? So they collect data on viewers, right? And what they have found is people are attracted to drama.
Yeah,
people
for sure.
are attracted
Especially
to fear. People are attracted to catastrophe. Would you rather watch a video of like a security camera outside of a bar that's like these guys get to talking and some drama starts going down, then all of a sudden a full-fledged fight goes on, or would you rather like see a video of a baby almost fall in the street and somebody catch the baby and set the baby back down? Like, that's the difference. Like, everybody's going to watch that fight because they're like, oh, man, what's about to go down and stuff like that. Well, they understand that, and the news media understands that. The news is going to report on anything that is negative. That's just like in Georgia. They just busted that place with all the kids. What is it, like 37 underage kids, that sex trafficking thing? Yeah. Has that been reported on CNN or even Fox News? And I'm not trying to be biased because Fox News is just as guilty as anybody else.
Yep.
They spin it their way, but it's all about selling fear. I mean, they're all about selling fear. And we eat it up, and it's partially our fault. We're the consumers.
Well, it goes back to, if people thought logically, right, which, people that want to do away with, macro level now, people that want to do away with electoral college and want to do away with all this stuff. But if they think logically, like they want, we need a national popular vote. That's mob rule. And it goes back to the old saying, if there's, two wolves and a sheep and we're direct democracy, the two wolves are going to vote the sheep, to eat the sheep every time. And, but instead of putting safeguards in place that say, you can't eat the sheep because it's one of three. We can't eat the sheep, right? So, okay, so I'm pissed off at, let's call it systemic racism in police departments across America. Okay, so this idiot guy that did what he did in Minneapolis that kind of started this most recent all this nonsense. First of all, he shouldn't be allowed to still be on the streets as a police officer. If you go back and look, he had a history of violence against minorities. If I'm not mistaken, he had shot two, and one of those died, other young black men. But this will not surprise you, gentlemen. But the reason he was allowed to still be on the force is because of a heavily Democratic-influenced police union that's in Minneapolis. Said, no, you can't. You can't take the badge from him.
Say that a little louder for the people in the back, please.
One more time.
So it's just, so if I'm mad about that, what is going to make the most difference in my community? That's what I think that us, quote unquote, common folk, right? The people that vote, the whatever it's a disgruntled majority, right? To protest and burn down Target, or to try to set up a meeting with a police chief in Chattanooga and have a conversation with him to meet some of the city council people in Chattanooga and pick their brains and say, this is what I'm worried about. The problem is that doesn't happen overnight, right? So if those meetings set up, change takes time, and people want it now. They want what they want. They want it now. And they don't want to sit back and say, I'm voting for this now. I'm promoting this now. I'm influencing this in my community now, so that 5-10 years from now, the conversation is skewed a little bit more, and we can keep working toward doing that. And then by the time my kids are my age, we keep moving the conversation. But people want it now, and they don't want to do that.
Well, the reason that we started Shepherds of Men was because we understood that there was change that had to happen, mostly within the male unit and that role. But we also understood it wasn't going to happen overnight. Like this is something that, truthfully, we're over a year into this now.
Yep.
And honestly, I have no idea what the trajectory of things will be. I hope it moves rapidly and grows like wildfire. We've seen some amazing traction over the last number of months, and it's just getting better. But I don't think anybody here started this with the misconception of that we're going to change the world in 12 months. I think we can start change. We can affect change. But it's my whole goal is that my next generation lives in a different world than we're in right now. So you're talking about, decade maybe. I don't know. I don't really care, honestly. Like, it doesn't really matter to me. That's a time frame doesn't really matter to me. It says let's do something.
Yeah, and to your point, Kelly, we try to implement short-term solutions for long-term problems, and it doesn't work. It's just that microwave mentality, and we've spoke about that on multiple occasions. But on the flip side of it as well, individuals that are not educated and ignorant, and by ignorant I mean they just don't know any better, are being told that hey, you need to go, this needs to be an uprising. Like, you need to go raise hell. Like, talking's not going to work no more, man. You need to go raise hell. It's just like somebody sitting behind, like two guys are arguing, and somebody sitting behind them as an antagonizer. They're just a catalyst back there going, man, hit his ass. Man, hit him. Right. You heard what he said? You heard what he said about your mama? He said something about my mama. Yeah, let him say that. He said something about your mama.
I'll give you a great example. And we don't have to go off on this because this could be a whole episode. But the most recent thing in Wisconsin, right? If you look at the facts as we know it, right? What the media came out and said, another black man is shot
immediately.
By police officers.
Yeah, okay? Without looking into anything, just immediately
now,
came out and said something.
And get this, one of the papers in Milwaukee, their headline said, whatever the guy's name was, I'm sorry I forgot.
Thank you.
He had a knife, but was otherwise unarmed. Well, no shit. So now imagine you're a police officer, okay? You roll up, you get called out on a call. You run the guys, somebody's calling and said, hey, this dude's here to cause harm. He's trying to steal my car keys.
Yep.
And that's another thing I want to make sure everybody hears, because that's newer information that has been clarified. Because there's still a lot of noise out there that he was breaking up a fight. He's just a good citizen breaking up a fight. No, he was not.
Is that what Don Lemon said?
Yeah. He's just a good citizen breaking up a fight. No, he had car keys.
On their way to that call, right, this may surprise people, but police officers, through their dispatch, actually have access to your criminal history. Right. On their way there, they find out that John Doe has an open warrant for his arrest for sexual assault against a 13-year-old.
Right. Wow. But he's just a good citizen.
He's just a good dude.
When they get there, they try to peacefully arrest the guy, if you can do that peacefully. He's yelling at him, telling him he's got a knife, okay? He says, no, I'm not going, whatever. They do try to tase him, but the taser fails, which my law enforcement officer friends have told me that happens more often than you would think. Yep. He says something to the effect of, I'm going to go to my car and get my gun. He goes to his car, reaches in. So what are the police officers supposed to do at this point?
Supposed to wait and get shot. That's what the media wants to have. Just wait and die.
The far liberals that most Americans don't identify with say, well, this whole situation could have been diffused if you'd have called out a social worker to the scene instead of a police officer.
Yeah.
Right. Really? So then we're going to have these big riots. Okay, whatever. We have the riots. So then. The thing that's happened now is a 17-year-old, Ritter Rush or whatever written. So he lives in Illinois, like 15 miles away. He's a 17-year-old. He's a trained EMT or some sort of emergency medical, maybe not an official EMT, EMS, whatever. He goes with some other folks. First of all, he shouldn't have. Okay, you're a 17-year-old, and you're going to go into this mess to try to help people that are hurt but you're also going to carry your rifle with you. Okay, probably not the best idea, but not illegal. It's legal to open carry a rifle, a long gun, in Wisconsin. So he's there earlier in the night. He's helping rioters that have been injured. He's giving them medical attention, and he's there with some other people, basically guarding this used car lot. Well, so people come on there starting some shit, and he shoots one that ends up dying. Okay, he immediately gets on the phone calling the police, but he takes off. He's 17. So people chase him. Okay, so now he's going through the street. A mob of a few dozen people, judging by what I've seen on the video, are following this kid. And he falls, and they descend on him. One dude hits him on the head with his skateboard. So what does he do? I'm 17. I'm being attacked. I'm going to die. What am I going to do? No, I'm going to shoot you. That's what I'm going to do.
Yep.
So he shoots the guy, by the way, who, if I read the report right, was a convicted molester, child molester. Of course, he didn't know that, right? But and he shoots another guy. And then they use this rhetoric to say, because in the video, he walks right by the police. And they say, well, they didn't arrest him because he's white. No, dumbass. They didn't arrest him because he's walking toward the police with his hands up. And the police don't know what's going on. They don't know what he just did. And Ben Shapiro said it best. Or sometimes he goes off the rails, but I listen to him every now and then. He said they didn't arrest or shoot him because he wasn't shooting at the police.
Right.
That's why they didn't shoot him.
He wasn't a threat, yeah.
And again, the kid never should have been there. I get that. He never should have been there. But to say he is guilty of murder one or whatever, to me seems a bit, I don't know.
I think it was self-defense.
They're trying him at first-degree murder, which means premeditated.
Yeah, and he won't get charged with that. It'll be self-defense, especially all the evidence that's out there. So let's go into something else, and I'll let you get. Sorry, guys, I'm asking all the damn questions here.
No, it's okay, JP.
It's your podcast.
It's my show. It's my show. Yeah. So I started this podcast.
As you said earlier.
Shepherds of JP.
Yeah. So anyways, so to that point, one of the things that drives me nuts from a media's perspective is their lack of accountability, right? So for me, misleading the public is just as bad as lying to the public, especially if you incite riots because of it, right? Yep. So in your mind, and by misleading, I mean like what you just said, another black man shot. Hold on, wait a minute. Maybe we should get the details. So if that guy walked out of the house when the cops showed up and he had his hands in the air, I don't care if he had a gun in his pocket. If he had his hands in the air and was like, guys, look, I'm sorry, I was in here, whatever. I know there's a warrant for me, whatever. Let's go. I'll go peacefully, whatever. I would imagine that would be different. Now, with the kid, that I would agree with you. There was no reason for him to go to Kenosha. There was no reason for him to do that, even if it was with good intentions, like being an EMT, doing that kind of stuff. Like there's no reason for that. But the news and a lot of the media outlets painted it like he went across 4 state lines to get there. Like he drove 3 days drive to get there when it was in actuality 13 miles from his house. It was just over a state border because it was right there on the Wisconsin border.
It would be like me going to Chattanooga for something.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
So, like for me personally, I think the news media should be held accountable for stuff like that. Like you either get severely fined or you lose your press passes. So, like say CNN, for instance, goes and lies or is misleading and has been proven to be absolutely misleading and incited riots or whatever it may be. You no longer have a press pass. You're not invited to the White House. That Acosta can't go in there and ask these dumbass questions and be a fucking douchebag in front of what's her name? I can't remember his new press secretary. What's her name? McEnany or whatever. She's badass. I'm just telling you, she's badass.
She's freaking awesome.
But he shouldn't be allowed to go in there. CNN can't have a representative. You've got 6 months. Like we're gonna spank your ass for 6 months. You got to sit in the corner. You don't get to play anymore.
Hey,
and you get fined.
So
I'll give you another example. I don't know if y'all can see this. Can y'all see the picture?
Yes.
What is that?
Listen to the picture.
Read it.
Look at the picture.
Read it.
Read it.
The headline. Now look at the picture. Says fiery, but mostly peaceful protest.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Fiery, mostly peaceful.
Guy's got blazes behind him.
Fiery,
People are
but
dumb.
mostly
Hey, so on your point, JP, you were talking about how the media should be held accountable. You guys have seen the Nick Sandman, right?
Yeah.
With what happened to him, acting like he's being a turd or whatever, but he wasn't. It was totally misconstrued. Well, he apparently has gotten like $50 million from one of the CNN, and then he's about to get a lot more money from all the others.
So he roasted CNN on CNN while suing CNN and receiving money from CNN. And that's what everybody was saying. Like, dude, anytime you think you're a badass, you'll never be as badass as Sandman.
Wow.
Sandman.
But my point
Put him to
is,
sleep, Sandman.
My point is, you have to hit these media outlets where it hurts, right?
Yes.
You have to start looking at
Right in the
situations
vagina.
like that and go, hey, guess what? So now that this has been through legal and this has gone to court and it has been proven that you smeared this kid's name, you lose your press pass for 6 months. CNN can no longer have a press pass. You can do what you want to, but you don't have a press pass anymore. You are no longer welcome in here for 6 months, and we're going to fine you this much money. And that's for every news outlet. That's Fox News. If you're found to be inciting riots or doing things of that nature, because that's called propaganda, right? You start to create propaganda. You start to because there's a lot of sheep in this country. I mean, it's just the fact of the matter. I'm not trying to be mean. There's just a lot of people that don't use their brains anymore.
Well, really, what the fact is that everything's coming at us so rapidly and so quickly. You don't have time to go dive into this huge documents or these huge, long, laid out, stuff. News-wise, it's like, dude, just give me the top, just the skinny. Give me the headlines. That's all I need.
So what's your solution to that, Kelly? What do you
Solve the world,
how
Kelly.
do you fix media in your mind?
Fix
Because
it,
I've got
media.
ideas, but I want to hear your ideas.
Fix it, Kelly.
I don't know if you can, JP. I'll tell you, going back to, and I really wasn't aware of this, but going all the way back, I was talking about Mark Van Buren earlier, going all the way back to him, and we've always had freedom of the press in this country. And back then, your local newspapers and even your bigger newspapers were funded by usually every somewhat decent sized city had a Democrat paper and a Republican paper, and they were funded appropriately, and they ran stories that those people wanted. So to think that this is just, since the TV or the Facebook, social media phase is inaccurate. It goes back 200 years. And I don't know if you can fix that other than doing what you guys are doing and educating the people that we're closest to and building the movement that way. I mean, Cameron said it takes time, right? Well, I mean, it took Jesus 33 years.
Right.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure he's got more than I do. So, I mean,
All
if
of
it
us.
takes us more than 33 years, I'm still okay. But 34 years because I have Jesus in my heart. So, but what you were just talking about as far as the oh my gosh, I lost my thought when I was thinking about Jesus. He's so amazing. It just took every thought out of
It's
my
so
head.
amazing. You pulled it right out.
Jeez.
So here's the thing.
Lord have
So
mercy.
Kelly,
JP intimidated me. 'cause
You,
he was gonna say
I
something.
touched his shoulder and it shut him down. So to your point though, so freedom of press, right?
I
Like
know
we
what
just
it is.
talked about.
Stop talking. I love you, but you've had a lot of this episode.
Wow, you really just let him do that to you.
I mean, dude, I really do feel bad. I feel like I've been talking the whole fucking episode. I do feel bad. There's a part of me that feels bad right
I'm
now.
kind of surprised I got away with it.
I know.
No, so no, you were talking. Kelly said something which we appreciate. I know it was like doing something like what we're doing, but when he said that, the first thing I thought about was all the other people out there that a lot of us follow that are doing the same thing. That are like, let's skip over the media and let's just have real people telling truth about facts. But here's the problem. Is those people are now getting censored, because if it doesn't line up with the narrative or the agenda of the medium or the outlet that they're telling that story through, then they'll cut it off. So just today, for instance, I'm a huge Sean Whalen fan. Y'all have heard us talk about him on here a lot. Today, he was talking about how he got, I think his Facebook page is down, and then some of his Instagram stuff got removed. Yeah. He just got censored, right? The Hodge twins are another couple guys that I love listening to. I really appreciate their perspective.
They took their stuff down, yeah.
And they took their crap down.
Donald Trump Jr. actually took and posted where they took it down. Did you see that?
Well, the Hodge twins did a Facebook Live to tell everybody that they were taking it down and where else to follow them.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is like, that's going to be the backlash is that as we continue to have a platform and a message that's loud, there's going to be that censorship, which is ridiculous. And I agree that there should be freedom of press and things like that, but there also should be accountability.
Well, with freedom comes responsibility.
There is a movement, and I don't remember the
This is the movement right here.
the bill number, but social media, there's basically a little loophole in the regulations and guidelines for the FCC, that regulate TV and radio, and at least sort of keep it somewhat, regulated in that you can't just say whatever you want to, so to say. But social media doesn't fall into that. And there's movement right now, really spearheaded by some Republicans in Congress, to say, no, the way times are now, the vast majority of people get their news off social media, and it needs to fall under the same regulations and guidelines as the FCC puts on newspapers, radio, TV, to say, hey, people trust you guys, to not be too much of a jackass and spreading your stories one way or the other. And maybe that's one way, Josh, is people could look at at legislators that are pushing that agenda and say, hey, we need to get this passed so that there is some accountability for the Facebook and the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world to say, you can't, whatever the guy's name is that runs Twitter. I know it's your company, but you can't, we're going to be a news outlet. You can't just censor Trump because you don't like what he says.
Right. Well, and on top of that, I just saw something the other day that almost made me sick that was talking about like it was a notification at the top of my Facebook about going and protesting.
Oh my God.
That was encouraging people to sign up and protest. Like, and it was now granted, I have been in California for the last week and I got on my Facebook and at the top the banner, as soon as you turn it on, the banner at the top said protest, I can't remember where it was, whatever it was, protest happening, blah, 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 sign up now. And it was a Facebook thing. Like, it wasn't some individual saying, please sign up for our protest. It was a Facebook ad at the top. And I'm like, dude, that's...
Welcome to California. We hate America. Please join us.
Yeah, it's kind of horseshit in my opinion. I think at some point when you have freedoms are not free like we talked about before, right? The freedoms are not free. If you have freedom of press, then there's a certain responsibility to report what is actually going on and allow people to make decisions based on what's going on and stop telling people how they should think. Especially like the whole damn thing in Madison, Minneapolis, the original thing with George Floyd, the whole thing that happened when they burned the motherfucker down. The people that incited those riots should be just as responsible for the people that lit the fires.
Yep.
Like, in my opinion, especially if it's misguided information that has been distributed by a media outlet,
which has been determined.
Yes, but that's what I'm talking about. Like, you have to at some point hold your media accountable for misguiding people, because you can technically say he died and the cop was wrong with what he did, but when you misguide the general public to get so angry that they need to incite riots, you have to be responsible for that as a media outlet. It's your responsibility to report the truth and what actually happened. And then people make their decisions. Now, if all you did was reported what happened and the truth, and they did it on their own, that's a whole nother monster. But when you tell people they should be pissed because this happened and you don't have all the details, that's misguiding the public, and it's just as severe as lying to the public.
Yep.
Can we talk about something else with the protests? I think I saw it today. Was it today, Bomar? You might know this more than any of us. Was it like the 50,000 people that showed up in D.C. to protest against getting together to vote?
No, I think it was Martin Luther King. It was
Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther King. But yes, that was it. Yeah, that was the whole. Yeah, 50,000 of them got together, and all of them don't think that we should have to vote in person.
Right. Okay, that's the only point I wanted to make on that.
Okay.
It makes sense though, right?
You saw the guidelines, that came out, because when the Minneapolis thing, the riots started happening, we were right smack in the middle of the height of the COVID fear, right? And you couldn't have.
You guys remember when that was popular?
Right. Yeah, you couldn't have a group of 12 people get together, but if you were going to protest, it couldn't be over 100, because we all know that COVID is woke AF, and
nicely done, sir.
Smartest virus.
Nicely done.
Nice.
It's a democratic virus.
Yeah.
It's a China virus. That's
China.
They're just using it to give them leverage. I mean, I don't. Did you watch the debates at all, or not the debates, but the
I can't wait for the debates. That's
no, wait, hold on. Right, hey, before you go into that, what do you think about Nancy Pelosi going up and saying that Biden should not
shit for him to talk?
Should not debate Donald Trump? What kind of horse shit?
She's scared he's going to say something stupid like, "If you're black, you got to vote for me."
Yeah,
right. I mean,
Here's Obama's quote: "Never underestimate Joe's ability to fuck something up.
Right.
That's a quote from him that I read. I'm taking it as gospel. I probably shouldn't because it was from the media. But, I mean, that's the truth. That's why I never understood why he became the candidate, because I got to think that most of the Democratic Party's got to be going, oh, shit, what are we doing?
Listen, I need you to educate me, Kelly. Can you run and not debate?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any sort of rule or, whatever that says you can't debate. I think it'd be pretty stupid not to.
Kind of like not throwing at the combine if you're trying to get drafted as a quarterback?
Yeah, man. I know why they don't want him to debate.
Well, everybody
I know
knows why on both sides.
I know why. I
knows
just
why.
wonder if that's actually something.
If I'm Trump right now, I'm going to spend the next September, October, I'm going to spend the next 3 months. I'm not even going to worry about Joe Biden because he's a limp fish anyway. I'm going to be going after Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Because, they're trying to paint this picture. And you want to talk about educating. For somebody that's thinking about voting for that crew that's listening to this podcast, I want to tell you, they're going to paint the picture that, she's the minority poster child and she's some moderate Democrat. The fact of the matter is, she was either the second or third most liberal senator. Bernie Sanders was one, and I think she was number two. She's its own record that she, laughed about locking people up for smoking pot as a DA. And laughed about her own use of it. There was a case, I can't remember the exact details, but I want to say it was something with a single mom or something, and purposely withheld evidence because if that evidence got out, illegally, by the way, a court said, no, you got to give it up. And she finally did, but she didn't want to give it up because it would hurt her record as a DA, and she wanted her prosecution record to be a high percentage because she knew she was going to run for Senate. So that's the kind of person that she is. And I get tired of the thing saying that she's an African-American candidate. No, she's not.
No.
Her dad was Jamaican, which is nowhere, basic geography, it's nowhere near Africa.
Pretty
And
far.
her mom is Indian from like the country.
Which is actually closer to Africa.
So,
Right. Exactly.
she's not even close to African-American. She's half black, but that's a color.
Right.
But we can't say that.
No, yeah.
Although they
Right,
do matter.
But she's the one, if I were Trump and Joe doesn't want to debate, fine. Let me debate her.
Yeah.
There you
Because
go.
there's one thing that Trump's really damn good at, and that's a debate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He ate Hillary Clinton up.
Yeah.
Well, the truth is, and you saw this in the conventions, both.
Oh,
There was a lot of, with the DNC, it was, we hate Trump. With at least my perspective.
No. Oh, yeah.
My perspective
It was
was the
hammering
DNC
him.
was, we hate Trump. That's all
And
we're
how
running
bad-
on. The
very bad
RNC
America
was
is.
like, here's the future of America. This is what we
Right.
believe in. This is what we want to do. And then, obviously there was mention of Biden is got dementia. So, but it's just a whole different, like, you never got that part?
No, dude. So the DNC, they were just bashing Trump and America, like how bad America is, and they're the fix and they're the pill of how they're going to fix the racism and all this other nonsense that they're pitting on Trump. And it's like, dude, no, I remember when Obama was in office for the 8 years that he was in, when these other riots and other things were going down, he never stepped in and said, hey, y'all, we could do better than this. Yeah. As a representation of him, of the black community, that was his voice and his time to shine, to say, hey, no, this is how we're going to do better than this. And he never did it.
If you look at the general feeling of the Democrat convention was this collectivist idea of America. Us, we, everything's, like everybody needs to be doing the same stuff for the good of others. I'm just naive. And if you look at the Republican convention, it was more about, pro-America individualism. And I'm just naive enough to think that people that are the more free of people in the plural people, the more free that people are, the more they do better for each other.
Right. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And it's you get this idea of, my thing always is, I don't mind paying more taxes if it's going to help people out. Well, dumbass, you're free to do that now.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
You
can give more money.
Listen, if you send an extra $1,000 to the U.S. government for your taxes, they're not going to send it back.
Right.
You can pay money right now and go help charities. You don't need the government to do it.
Well, let's call it what it is. And I had this conversation with somebody that's very close to me this week, and it was a tough one. It wasn't even a conversation. It was just some bullet points back and forth. But it literally was, they were trying to compare Christianity. Like when we say, Jesus says, give to the poor, take care of the poor, it's Christianity. But when Democrats say it, it's socialist. Like, you're missing a lot of context on both sides of that, right? And the truth of the matter is, when you create an environment where somebody can produce, right, and they have the right heart, then you're going to naturally give more. I am a Christian. I'm very proud to be a Christian. And a large driving factor of me producing and creating more resources is so that I can give more. What I'm not down with is somebody telling me, if you produce, I'm going to take X amount and do what I think is right with it because I'm smarter than you. But that's not that is not creating production. That is not creating a mindset for me to want to go work harder.
But so there's actual studies, psychological studies that they've done where they've taken restaurants and taken the prices off the menu and said, hey, you guys pay what you think your service was worth and what you think your food was worth. And when people got the option to pay, donate money, whatever you want to put that as, they actually gave on average more than when somebody told them what they had to pay. Right. If you went into a restaurant and they said this steak is $20 and you have to pay 10% to your waiter or 20% to your waiter, whatever it is, they would pay that amount and that amount exactly. But when they took the prices off and they gave people the option to choose what it was that they wanted to give, people were more likely to give. I mean, I don't think there's any way around that. I mean, I think that's the truth of the matter, but behind the whole socialist argument and stuff like that.
It's a pretty easy one.
You can't just take money from people and say, hey, we're going to take money until we go all into prosperity.
It goes back to what we talked about before. It's everybody wants something microwave. So it's easy to go, we're just going to take how much we want to take. It's harder, it's more challenging to go, we're going to raise our kids to think properly and go, I want to go create and give.
Yes.
That's harder. That's more long term. That's going to take effort. That's going to take sacrifice. That's going to take, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fun all the time, right? But it's a microwave mentality versus a like deep rooted proper heart mentality, in my opinion. Because I want my kids to go, man, I love giving. I absolutely love it. Like, that's one of the reasons that I want to be so prosperous, is so I can just give more. And I want to give to people that truly can't do for themselves. I don't want to give to, frankly, and I'll say, I don't want to give to people that are just lazy asses sitting on the couch waiting for me to give them something. I don't want to give them anything.
And I don't want to give to the government, to be honest.
I damn sure don't want to give to the government because they're going to waste it.
There's very little I want to give to the government, and that's my protection and my infrastructure to a certain extent. Like that, and maybe some schooling, public schooling, I think people should be able to get to a certain amount. But that's the government. I can do better with my money than the government can. 100%. I've always thought that. And that's the whole reason this guy, and it goes back to what you said from the very beginning, Kelly. You made a comment about we have to understand everybody. The common citizen of this country has to understand not only the Constitution and why this country was created and why those guys came over here and risked their lives to start this country, but they have to understand why. Like, not just like the Constitution, but why it was written, where it came from, because these guys understand what tyranny was. Like, these guys saw it firsthand, what happens when people get overtaxed. Like, Canada's still dealing with it. They still pay taxes to the Queen. That's crazy to me.
God love the Queen.
So, in wrapping up, can you give us some practical takeaways of like what people need to do, where they can go to maybe get educated if they're not, or if they're willing to do so? And maybe some just other takeaways that's on your mind right now going into this next election.
Okay, so the biggest thing that I can tell you is when you're going into election, right, letters beside your name don't mean everything. But in general, one party favors individual freedom and liberty and your ability to do what you want to do with your money, your time, and your family. And the other side of the coin wants to tell you how and dictate to you everything that you can do and can do for your family. And it goes, I mean, you can look back at, from the 60s with the war on poverty. In 60, 70 years since that started with LBJ, we spent $22 trillion in today's money. That's 3 times the amount of money we spent on all the wars since the Revolutionary War, and poverty has stayed the same level. But it's a control thing, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. One party wants you to have more freedom and liberty for you and your family, and it's not very hard to see which one that is. And the other side of the coin wants to have more control and tell you what to do, and tell you things like we had the coronavirus because of global warming, which they said at the convention the other night. And that kind of stuff, just it blows my mind that we would let people have that much control over our daily lives.
Yeah. Kelly.
Your time.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much. And guys, just wrapping up again, get educated, go to the platforms, go to the, just credible resources. Don't just listen to the news. I've totally turned off the news in our house. We don't listen to the news. We go find the information we need. And it's so funny. The people who do actually watch the news religiously, their ideals are so misconstrued compared to what the reality is. And I would just encourage you to go get educated, find the right resources, and just take this seriously. This next election is something big that you need to realize, that your vote matters, your voice matters, and if you don't vote, you have no reason and no leg to stand on to be bitching about why the country is where they are. If you don't exercise your right, freedom to vote, then it's over, on your end. So you have no room to debate. Outside of that, man, I mean, just like what Kelly was saying, if you look at the 2 different parties and you look at the 2 different things that they believe in, you just got to look. Like pro-choice is the left, pro-life is the right. Less freedoms and take away all your money that you work hard for is the left. Right is going to be more give you the opportunity to stake your own claim, do what you want, enterprise, what America was founded on. And if you go back and watch some of the videos at the DNC and the RNC and actually hear what their message is all about, man, you'll be amazed. I was looking at it as a Christian like you, Cam. When I was watching the RNC, they talked about God and what God's doing in our country, and that was like their focal point. Is if you're a Christian, to me, it was an easy no-brainer. Where the DNC was taking God out of the Pledge of Allegiance. Out of the Pledge of Allegiance in 2 or 3 different occasions. Maybe not on the main stage, but still they allowed it. And then the representation that they provided was just asinine. I mean, why would you? Like, it's almost to the point to where they're just like, how TR used to always talk about. It's like, how much can I just get away with?
Right.
And how stupid are these individuals to listen to me? And I'm putting out this, king mermaid person to represent all these different things. And no offense to that person, but still, like, that's your choice. It's just as much as Biden was your choice when you had other Democrats that could actually do a much better job. It's almost like, hey, how dumb are you guys out there? Are you really paying attention, or are you just letting this happen? And I just hope you wake up. So that's it for us. If you guys have questions, concerns, you want to get some feedback, you want to just pick our brains about it or whatnot, or you want to just tell us how wrong we are, dude, get us on social media. We implore you to get involved. If this struck a chord, let us know how it struck you, and just go out there, follow all of our social medias. We're on YouTube, so if you're not on YouTube yet, go up there and follow us so we can have our own dedicated link. If you like what you hear and you want to support us, or go, just wear our swag, we have swag available for you as well. We're not like begging. So if you're an ass, don't wear a shit. If you're a decent person, go get it, man, and represent and let people know. It's a great conversation starter. I mean, this stuff looks sick. But anyway, I've enjoyed my time or our time here. And everybody else, you guys just have a blessed night, and we'll see you again.
And if you guys want to follow Kelly Bomar on social media, you can also find him at KBO Spartan on Instagram. He also has his own website, kellybomar.com. He's also on Facebook. Just search Kelly Bomar. But Kelly, thanks for joining, man. It was a blessing to have you on here. As always, we love your feedback, love your insight, and hope to see you back again soon, man. But you guys have anything else to say before we go?
This has been The Movement.